Huh. And to think that I was actually scared to watch this episode. But now, I don't regret watching even a second of it. I loved this!
Pokemon Ranger! I choose you!
What's up, mighty boys and girls? It's your Ranger Boy here, and welcome to finally another review of Pokemon Journeys. Anyway, after the long period of over 10 years... Wait, hold on. Sorry guys, over 10 years was actually the last time we saw May in the anime. So therefore, let me correct my statement. After the long period of 10 months, we are back in Alola with the Alolan gang, minus Lillie, with episode 37. I am back! Nice to meet you, Alola! So, a lot of people have been messaging me and wanting me to watch and review this specific episode, because it's mostly known by now that unlike basically every other Pokemon anime YouTuber, I'm one of the only ones who had a, let's say, complicated relationship with the Gen 7 anime. So therefore, my opinion in particular should be very interesting. Will I return back to the roots of Gen 7 Ranger and nitpick the Alolan gang? Or will this actually be a surprise? If you want to know more, if you want to know my opinion, then grab some popcorn, grab some cookies, and let's do this! But Long, what about the last two episodes you haven't reviewed? At least tell us your opinion on those. Skip to this timestamp for the Alola review. Okay. Episode 35 was all about Go not only catching a Pikachu, not only having that Pikachu evolve into a Raichu, but first and foremost, that female Pikachu flirting with our Pikachu. Once again, just like in Sun and Moon, another female Pikachu messing up with my Lagomorph shipping feelings. And not only that, they even let Team Rocket have a Baniri fighting against Ash's Pikachu. Why are you messing with my feelings, Pokemon Journeys? Why? But feelings aside, this episode was okay. So episode 35 was basically the equivalent of Knack for the PlayStation 4. But episode 36, on the other hand,
is a masterpiece. Oh, look at the graphics. Look at the graphics of that game.
Like seriously, this episode was fantastic. To sum it up in a short manner, after their brutal battle with B, both Ash and Riolu developed some kind of tentacle PTSD. Just like me when I watched my first experience with tentacles in anime. Believe me, Ash, it changed me as well. And therefore, both were way more hesitant and scared to fight in the World Tournament, which then caused Ash to lose so severely that he dropped down, back to normal class. And it changed him so much that he was not only depressed as fuck, but also he was hesitant throughout their whole battle with trouble-causing Flygon. So much so that Go decided for himself, fuck it!
If you don't want to be Ash Ketchum, then I will be Ash Ketchum.
And he basically became our forever 10-year-old boy by using very creative battle strategies and unpredictability, and even copies the Draco Meteor climb, which Ash did in both XY and Sun and Moon. And with that revelation of Go's untapped battle potential, which we will also talk about in the Sun and Moon episode, Ash realized that being a hesitant boy is not really his style, and that he has to start over to find himself again. So in short, Ash became past Go, and Go became Ash, to convince Ash that he should return back to being Ash. Honestly, very creative writing, which I really liked a lot. The only thing that I didn't like is that this whole potential of Go as a battler and potential rival of Ash seems to be a bit out of nowhere. But I really do hope that from this point on, they will gradually build up this potential. And they will in this Alola episode. So now, let's talk about Alola. We start off the episode with cute Yamper finding a leaf stone, and Go quickly decides to use that to obtain a brand new Executor, followed up by Ash's remark that compared to this one, the Alolan form is so much larger, it's huge. And since Go wants to witness that huge thing with his own eyes, they decide to make a spontaneous trip to Alola. Arriving at Mele Mele Island, Ash's first welcoming person is Daddy replacement Kukui, and since he is the embodiment of the Alolan spirit, he welcomes not only Ash, but also Go and his Pokemon with open arms. But there's another person who can't wait to reunite with Ash. Replacement mommy Professor Burnett, rest in peace Dahlia, and her newborn child, Ray, or Lei. It's kinda complicated because in the Japanese language you can pronounce it with either an L or an R. Also, by the way, how convenient that a baby was born after more than 9 months in real life since the last time we saw Alola, which means that real time flow does indeed exist in the Pokemon universe. Well, unless you're Ash Ketchum, because he's still mother effing 10 years old. After another warm welcome of Ash's Alolan team to both Ash and Go, the boys find out that there's some sort of welcoming party for them. So without any more hesitation, they rush towards that. And throughout their run, we encounter several callbacks to the past of Gen 7. Callback number 1. Go's first Alolan encounter and capture is Pyukumuku, which ironically enough was also Ash's first encounter in Alola in episode 1. Callback number 2. Go tries to catch a wild Grubbin who is escaping under the earth. Again, back then, in the very first episodes of Sun and Moon, Ash also tried to catch Grubbin, and just like Go, he failed. Man, remember when everybody thought that Ash could get Vikavolt? Good times. Callback number 3. After an unsuccessful chase of Grubbin, Go falls into the water and gets fished out by Pokelolly savior Lana, which is also the same way she encountered Ash. Callback number 4. The Team Rocket Pokemon being referenced for a few seconds before Ash reunites with Alolan Rotom, who tells him that he will lead him to the party. Callback number 5. Every Alolan member seems to be very interested in Go, in some parts a little bit too interested for Go's taste. Well, everyone besides Kiawe, who switches from relaxed to super serious and a bit mistrusting after getting eye to eye with Go, which is an approach very similar to when he encountered Ash for the very first time, where he was also very serious and mistrusting after Ash received the Electrium Z from Tapu Koko for seemingly no reason. Furthermore, after declaring himself as one of Ash's rivals, he asked Go if he also is a rival of Ash and whether or not he battles as well, and the answer of Go really ticked off our Volcano Boy, and in his opinion showed some disrespect towards Ash, which in my opinion is also a tiny callback to the first conversation between Kiawe and Ash, where he also mistrusted Ash at first because Ash didn't seem to understand the whole background of the Z-Ring with all the tradition and obstacles connected to it. So there was a little bit of confrontation between Kiawe and Go, just like he had back then with Ash. But how does that confrontation end? Well, let's talk about that a little bit later. Before that, we firstly have to celebrate the reunion of Ash and his Sun and Moon gang and Go's first time in Alola by showcasing that everybody progressed in their own story until I went through a little heart attack after Lana shouted out Alola surprise! Which then led to me having flashbacks of silly games and funny faces and comedy, unnecessary comedy, and references everywhere. Something which continued on. It never ended. It never ends. It will never end.
Long, calm down. It's not that kind of Alolan surprise. It's just a sweet letter of Lillie informing her friends and viewers that she's okay and that she still tries to find her dad together with her family.
You know, even before I watched the episode, I thought that I was mentally prepared for all that. I'm actually glad that they didn't do any of that, because it was clear that I was not ready to return back to this. Anyway, what also came unexpected was Kiawe's challenge towards Go, mainly because in his opinion, Go isn't a strong enough rival to support Ash's dream, and Go accepts that challenge with his pride on the line, while Go and Kiawe's Pokemon make an expression as if they were saying,
"But yeah, sure, we can battle. But let us finish our meal first, you fucks!"
So we jump right into the battle with Go's Reboot already being exhausted, while Turtonator doesn't even have a scratch on him. That's kinda odd, jumping right into the battle without any kind of introduction, but okay. And it seems like that we already arrived at the climax of the battle, with Kiawe about to use his Z-move. But before Go will take that power right into his face, our Trap Boy is visibly pissed that Kiawe constantly refers to him as Ash's rival here and Ash's rival there, because in his opinion, he's neither Ash's rival nor some guy who has to support Ash's dream, because he has his own dream, and that Go and Go alone decides about his dream and his future. Impressed by that speech, Kiawe fires off a powerful Z move, and even though Go tries his hardest to fight against that, he seems to be doomed. Until Alola Marowak saves him, and it turns out that everything Kiawe did, from his behavior until his actions, was all according to plan. Like if he was Sosuke Aizen testing Ichi Go. if he has the power and attitude to protect his friend, and Go passes the test with flying colors. After that success, he declares his goal of catching every Pokemon, including Mew. Go catches the huge and long thing he was looking forward to since the beginning, and that's the end of the episode. So that's the end, and just like my Carlos review, this is also a very long review since I am honestly way too emotionally invested with both, I guess. Despite popular beliefs of contradictory, and with that out of the way, let's do my impressions. Overall, this return to Alola actually surprised me in more ways than one. The first aspect of surprise was the first half of this week's adventure, aka the numerous callbacks to the past, which I myself actually enjoyed, and even felt a little bit nostalgic for all of those moments. It took me back to 2016 and the whole beginnings of Sun and Moon. I spent 3 years with the Gen 7 anime, and believe me, it was a truly complicated relationship between me and Sun and Moon, but I still see Sun and Moon as an experience that I'm glad that I didn't miss out on. And for the most part, this episode actually reminded me of the things I liked about Sun and Moon. The characters, the environment, the rather decent storytelling. Note, if they actually put effort into it, which, more than often wasn't the case. Furthermore, I liked the presentation of the anime in regards of Gen 7 overall, but especially in regards of progression and development of each and every character. Firstly, I liked it overall because the Sun and Moon anime had no kind of silly comedy, no kind of exaggerated faces, no unnecessary references to other media, or any kind of major inconsistency. Very decent Alolan return which showcased the best of Gen 7 instead of the, well, let's say, the not so good part. And one of those good parts was the display of progression, aka that Kukui and Burnett have a child, even though their logical timeline contradicts Ash's never aging gimmick. Sophocles' chase of becoming an astronaut was alright. Marlo, on the other hand, was a little bit weird, because in Gen 7 her goal was to actually gather recipes to make her restaurant the #1 in Alola. Now her goal has been kinda generalized to I want to cook because I want to make Pokemon and people happy. That was kinda weird, but still okay. Speaking of generalized goal, if you remember, Lana's goal was to encounter many deep sea water Pokemon and bond with them, which is why she was constantly working on her Populous bubble, and in the end, she still had the ambition to chase that dream. But instead of showcasing what Lana was up to this whole time, the anime instead used Lana as a vehicle to showcase Lillie's story instead. Don't get me wrong, the story of Lillie is a really important one, which is the major reason why she is missing from the anime. But to do so while also somewhat neglecting Lana, honestly, this was something I really didn't like. I'm sorry. But Long, what about Kiawe? You don't seem to be worried about him at all. What's the reason for that? I'm not worried about my boy because of 2 reasons. First, his goal is to one day become the Flame of Alola. To do so, he has to constantly get stronger. And while talking about his relationship with Ash, he somewhat implies that he's still working on that, since, according to Kiawe, he was Ash's rival and still is. Which somewhat implies that not only is he working on himself till this day, but it also implies that maybe, just maybe, he still wants to compete against Ash in the World Tournament. Wink wink. But secondly, and most importantly, I was not worried about him at all because he did what Corinna did to Ash and Riolu, supporting the next generation, aka something that Brock and Misty didn't do in Gen 7. Cough cough cough. But I'm really happy that he did that, and he did that by testing Go by seemingly behaving very mistrusting and in some parts really hot-headed towards him to test Go of whether or not he has the right attitude to be a good friend to Ash, which in my opinion Go did pass the test with flying colors, thanks to that excellent speech of his. The only nitpick I have was that instead of showing a proper beginning of Go's test of strength, we jumped right into the climax and the conclusion of the battle, which is a pretty weird approach and really feels a little bit rushed to me. Overall, I really love this episode, I really do, but what is still my biggest issue with this episode is not anything within the episode, like development and story, which I really loved, but the really odd timing of this Alolan return. I'm still kinda scratching my head of why this episode had to be done right now. Think about it, it has been only roughly 10 months since we last saw the Sun and Moon gang. In comparison, we haven't seen May for over 12 years. And let us not talk about Max. We haven't seen Dawn in the anime for nearly 10 years, Iris for nearly 7 years, and Serena, Bonnie, Clement and Silent for almost 4 years. But the Sun and Moon gang gets a return after a measly amount of 10 months? Don't get things twisted here. I wanted to see the Alolan gang back in the anime, because I like them, I really do. I just wished that more time would have passed so that this return wouldn't feel so oddly placed, and compared to past gens, it feels just a little bit unfair. But despite the nitpicks, this episode was, in short, awesome. It showcased the strength of Sun and Moon, it removed everything negative about Gen 7, it concentrated and focused on the parts which actually mattered the most, it had great storytelling from beginning to end, and what was the most important part to me, and thank you for that, it supported the next generation. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed this rather long and really in-depth review. What is your opinion about this Alola return? I can't wait to read your opinion. Tell me, and just like always, I see you guys in the comments down below. Bye guys!